we're social distancing here.
What's the date?
It is March something or other.
22nd.
22nd, 2020. March 22nd, 2020. 3/20/20 would be cool. Anyways, just a little side note. This is episode 12. We're into the second song of The Alien, the Rabbit, the Monkey. But a really weird thing is going on these times in the world, 2020, March 22nd. We're under a world pandemic, the coronavirus. If this is future viewers, you might know the story of the coronavirus. We don't know where it's going to end at this point. You people in the future will know where it ends. So at this point, pretty well everybody's working from home. Nobody's really going out and doing anything. Byron was saying he was just at an intersection that's very, very busy in our town, and there was nobody.
Tumbleweeds.
Yeah. It's never happened like this before, so it's kind of crazy, and you folks watching in the future will know how it ends. So right now, we're all just trying to...
If there are folks
That's
to watch
true.
this.
Maybe there's nobody in the future.
Maybe this is it.
Anyway, so you folks, let us know how it goes in the comments section below. So that's, where we are in the state of the world today. Coronavirus has taken over everything. But where we are in our little series is song number 2 on The Alien, the Rabbit, the Monkey. It's called The Chocolate Song. So are there any opening thoughts to The Chocolate Song before you listen to it again?
Well, a couple things. I brought my... this is the name of the studio that we did this album. Sound of One Hand recording studio. I brought my...
Sound of One Hand.
Was that the name of the... Is that always the name of the studio that we recorded?
Well, it's what they started because it was John Dewar, Ross Murray, and Marty Jones, 3 of the bigger studio guys in town. They got together, and Ross had a studio called Sound of One Hand that was in Quebec. So when they got together and took over the location that we're talking about, they just kept that name going. It was very popular. And they had it for, probably 7 or 8 years, I guess? I mean, it's interesting. This studio had gone from John and his partners. They basically sold it to a couple of their engineers who only kept it for about a year. And then I bought it and kept it for 7 years. And now a friend of ours, Steve Foley, runs it as Audio Valley Recording. So it has a long history. But this part of the history is where Byron's doing his album.
So we're doing the next song. I enjoyed listening to the first song, as I told you. I enjoyed sort of my word stuff, and I guess we're doing this next song, which is... so I haven't heard this stuff like in 20, 25 years. I haven't played any of this stuff. This is called The Chocolate Song.
You go through this.
Big fan of chocolate. Always having... I'm quite obsessed with chocolate. Enough to say in my little world, I have a day called Brownie Day, which is Friday, where I really indulge in all things chocolate. I've loved chocolate all my life, and it just seemed pretty apropos at the time to at least write one song that had the word chocolate in it. So before not listening to this, there's a couple of things that I can remember about it. I remember that it for sure sounded, when I did the song, I think I sort of wrote it in about 10 minutes. I remember I did it at my little basement studio when I did the demo, and I remember doing it, and I remember it was very simple, and I remember it reminded me of being in a punk band, being in a band. It was a very sort of live song. I can imagine playing it live somewhere. It had a little guitar thing and a funny bass lick. And so I remember writing it really quickly, and I remember being very happy with it just because it just sort of came out of nowhere. And a lot of it had to do with part of the guitar part, just sort of where I was on the guitar, and just sort of coming up with the verse-chorus thing. But the one sort of irritant that I always remember about this song is the chorus had the lyrics, I think it was, I ate the chocolate right from the box, she was a very good girl, I ate the chocolates, something about chocolates and box. And while we were recording this song, and just as I was laying down some of the lyrics, or it was around that time, there was a big movie that came out called Forrest Gump. And one of the big...
Nobody's ever heard of that. It's pretty obscure.
Nobody's ever heard of that movie at all. But at the time, I think... So Tom Hanks was in that movie. I think it was a very popular movie of its day.
No, it wasn't Tom Hanks. It was Robert De Niro. He was Forrest Gump.
Okay, he was.
Tom Hanks, who has coronavirus.
Okay, so it was a Robert Zemeckis movie. So, and they have Forrest Gump going throughout. But anyway, so one of the big phrases that Forrest Gump had was, "Life is like a box of chocolates." And I remember thinking I was really bummed out because I had written this song a couple years before that phrase was being made popular or that phrase was out. And I always just remember being a bit bummed out that I hadn't had it recorded or had it out before I heard that. But yeah, I was always thinking...
Timing is everything.
Yeah, well, timing is. But life is like a box of chocolates. So
clever and stupid all at the same time.
Yes, it's a thin line between clever and stupid. I'm looking at this and I can't believe that there's... Okay,
you're
so
actually looking at
those aren't the lyrics.
Alien, right?
Okay, right. Okay, so yeah,
nobody's seeing anything other than us right now.
Oh, okay.
You want me to move it ahead?
Well, I was just looking at without.
There we go. But I can't go into the song. No one knows what we're doing.
Okay, so go play the song then.
All right. Well, now I got to go back a little bit. Bear with us, everybody. This is live, real time, right?
Stupid virus.
So we're going back to the virus now.
Stupid virus.
Okay, well, tell you what. This is the chocolate song.
Wow. Why am I always stopping the song and putting all sorts of different time signatures in it?
You tell me.
It's bizarre. It's bizarre. So there are... I'm looking at the... I'm looking at the people that played on this.
Well, I know Oliver Marsh was that guitar player. He had... what the hell? Claymouth?
Yes.
He was a super smart coder guy, and he loved heavy stuff. And John, I think, enlisted him to play that heavy.
He had a sound.
Oh yeah.
And I remember saying, "Can you put the clay mouth sound on that part?" And he just said, "No problem."
Perfect positioning. That's where John's so good. Like he can see those slots that something goes in, and would normally be able to throw his line out and grab the person that does the right thing. Derek Jeffries, the guitar player in this, I know he's good, but I'm always reminded. Is that a word? I'm just reminded.
No, re-reminded, irregardless.
Just how good he is. The way he plays over like the changes and stuff, it's really, really tasteful guitar
Derek.
player. What a great guy. What a great guitar player. What is Hermiola drums?
I don't know.
That pink, pink at the end? Pink, pink, pink.
It must...
Duncan
No, I think...
Foltma?
Wasn't that...
Foltmo? I'm sorry, Derek.
I touched
Duncan? What are you doing? Social distance, my friend.
I touched you.
There's Bob Bangs. I think he played on most of it, but and then claps. Dave Sorokin. Who's that?
Who's Dave Sorokin?
I don't know.
I don't even know who these drums are. So I feel like musically there, I could have just listened to it.
It would play the bass. I guess that would be. It sounds like.
If it's not written down, it's me then.
Right.
Yeah.
So was this one bass driven for you?
It was it was the verses. It was the combination of the guitar, and I was just sort of doing little two-note little runs on the...
Which is weird because it ends up being interpreted by Oliver and Derek, which, they're not like us at all in any way, shape, or form.
Oh yeah, I think that's what...
So where would it... Like, how would it... Like, without the heavy guitars and all, how is the song if you grabbed an acoustic...
It was a verse chorus thing, so it was full chords in the chorus. Heavy da na 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 na.
Oh, so you're playing just the power chords.
Yeah, very good. And then the verse was diddly diddly diddle. It was sort of a two-note thing on the. By the way, I watched Nancy Wilson's show how to do the thing for. The guitar thing
what
for
a nuts
for
player.
What a great
Crazy on You.
Yeah,
beginning of it.
Yeah, there's 6 minutes of her sort of going over these things, and it reminded me of a lot. So it was sort of the A minor position that I was using. So I was up sort of on the D, and I was just sort of using those two notes and just sort of swinging up and down, and it was kind of like that. Why I'm mentioning Nancy Wilson in that part was that she was just sort of swinging up and down those positions too. Except she can actually play the guitar.
God, can she ever?
She got the little finger pick too stuff and
and just like, the snappy. She just it's insane.
She said that she first did it with she had a thumb pick that she was using to get that real because
percussive.
Yeah, because I think it was all based on A and just boom 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 do 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 do.
Well, like John Dewar, it really pays when you can utilize your right hand like that. Because truly, on those songs, I think we could all do the left hand. Can you interpret it this way? Right? That's one of the big keys of playing great fingerstyle acoustic. That is fingerstyle acoustic.
Yeah.
So your song, how you're writing it, and
it was a very sort of guitar, drum, bass thing, and I just very much imagined it. Just sounded to me like a TMR song. TMR being the band I played in when I was in high school. We were doing punk stuff. It was a very punk song. It was just the way that the verse went. It was also using the word chocolate. I mean, just sort of getting the word chocolate. She was a very good girl. I ate the chocolates right from the box. I mean, it makes no sense, but I just sort of like that play. Word play, girls, box, chocolate. So you can
take
sort of,
it from there.
You can sort of let your mind go, so it's vague enough. It's vague enough. And I love that sort of thing where it can mean sort of like, it can have like three entendres and stuff like that. So yeah, I was a lot different when I was 30 when I was sort of writing those songs. But yeah, it to me sounds like a great song to do live. I love Oliver's his guitar sound, and I love the other guitar sound, the Derek Jeffries. That opening bit is just like the best parts to me.
Well, it's funny how you say it's like a punk song, but it's so much more evolved than that, which is the beauty of it. It's a super simple motif that's just arranged very well with great players. But it also throws in the Byronic twist. Was there any modus operandi to that twist when you came up? Was there a point, or was just like, okay, here's the part of the song where I do my thing?
Well, I think so. I was taking the idea of a freak of a nature track that things aren't so linear in life, and people aren't so straight ahead. So I think a lot of times when I can hear the change overs that I do this in tone and stuff like that. But I think there's a point of the freak of nature, the idea that people are complicated things. And it's easy to take away that stuff that I added to the song and just make a very sort of straight ahead linear song. It goes from point A to point B. Mm-hmm. All your expectations are met. It goes verse, chorus, middle eight with the guitar solo, verse, chorus. So I actually just sort of threw some stuff in there just to throw, I think to throw the listener off, to throw myself off, and not to have any expectations. So maybe I'm playing with myself as an audience. I don't really know whether I think that much about an audience, but it's too easy for me to go from point A to point B. I have to put that musical shiv in. It makes it more interesting to me. It makes it more fun just to sort of stop things and just sort of look over there.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the part of the allure of your output. What I was happy there, and I don't know if it's John's influence or not, but where in Bike Down Hard, we may have just done that for the next 5 minutes and got more weird as it went. I love how back into the song. I mean, that really brought it back in line and made that part extra special to me.
Yes, probably John's influence, probably the influence of me doing my first album, probably there seems to be some learning going on for myself. I think after my first thing, I think lyrically this is a bit of a one-off. I'm just sort of playing with themes, Godzillas and tsunamis and Japanese and dragons and silks and the Dalai Lama, and so I guess she was a geisha girl or something like that, just so she'd be one of those.
Funny enough, leading to the next song, and I'm sure that's part of the pacing. We'll get to that soon. But what I do like is the difference from the chorus, which to me is very straight ahead lyrically, playing in that idea. But the verse lyrics go back to what I love about your stuff, which is so much more rhythmically induced than it is telling a story. The dragon silk, the Dalai Lama, slinky, sinuous geisha.
Yeah.
It's all very bang, bang, bang. It's the cadence of it that I love so much. And they go back and forth. That's cool.
Yeah, I will say I'm learning about my stuff. There's a lot not to like that I've heard. There's some musical stuff that I've really enjoyed, but I'm pretty happy with my lyrics. I never really sort of looked at them like that, and I'm proud, I guess, myself about my lyrical output. Yeah, I sort of put my own spin on it. I'm very proud of them. And even we've even talked about it on the last session, but even doing videos today and just putting the words of my lyrics out on the video, it just seems like the right thing to do. And I really feel confident about the words that I write and stuff like that. I feel really good about that. I enjoy looking at my wordplay, and it's fun.
Yeah, it's funny. We're old enough and experienced enough in this industry to finally realize how much more important it is to throw the lyrics up there as you're going along. Anybody. It will retain your viewers just that much more, because it's the old what's next, what's coming next. Now we kind of drop our lyrics all. We've got a lot of songs to get through, but I love nothing more than going back, revisiting these songs and reading through with them, because like so many other people, when you hear a song that you love so much, you've known it for 20 years now. We've known these songs. I'm reading these lyrics going, oh, that's what you're saying. Like at the end, I always thought it was bye-bye at the very end. It's so unbelievable or unbelievable. It's you're rediscovering what you said.
Ba, 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 ba.
Zombie tsunami.
Tsunami. That's basically what we're in right now. Eh? We are in a zombie tsunami.
Yeah. Konnichiwa.
Did I put Konnichiwa in there?
Yeah, look at the
Tokyo
big
burns. It ain't Godzilla.
I like the way Terry did the lyrics, in order to fit into the bubble.
Zombie tsunami. It's so unbelievable. Yeah. So wow, that's really wonderful.
And see, I tried to here we are talking about stuff people can't see, but when you were looking at the lyrics here, I was trying to size them so they'd fit into the screen because there's a top and bottom border. They're a little edged there, but you won't see those borders when people are watching at home along with us.
Well, another lyrical thrill for me. I'm just curious about the Duncan. There's a part of the credit is
How do you pronounce that last name?
Some drums, and I don't know what.
At some point, hopefully John Doerr will see what we're doing and maybe give us some insight to some of these things.
You think he'll give us some insight?
Oh, I'm sure he'll give us lots of insight. John, if you're out there, feel free.
Come on, John.
Reach out and give us some straight poop on some of these people. We know that John, outside of Byron being there, because Byron would be working, he'd be doing things and then coming into the studio. John was always at the studio, and he loved Byron's stuff as well, and he'd be tinkering away on it a lot.
John's practicing social distancing right now.
I bet you he is. Everybody in the world has to. This is unbelievable, unprecedented in the world, and we're fairly old.
Tokyo burns.
We're starting.
Oh, we're really old. It's bad. It ain't Godzilla.
So there we go.
Konnichiwa.
Yeah, well, I think that you'd probably just have anything that sounded neat at the time you would have done. So she took me home. She brought the honey.
Don't tell me what the next song is.
Bumblebee. Oriental Bumblebee. What is that supposed to be?
That's a great little line. I would have loved to have been doing videos for some of those songs today with on my artwork. They sound very graphical to me. What's the next song?
I'm not telling you.
All the freaking people. Are we going to have a break before we go into the next song?
Yeah, we're going to have a break before we hit the next song. But, remember the Asian slant to those words in that song and the next song that comes along. I'm just saying that.
Look at all the people on look at just a ton of. We're looking at the credits.
We'll go over that a little bit. Maybe
there's
we'll go
a ton of people
at the end
there.
After we listen to the next song and do the second half. We'll go over some of the credits because you guys were great. Especially you were great at little inside jokes and things that didn't mean anything to anybody but you. So there's a lot of that in the credits and stuff.
Louis Schreier?
Yeah, the Schreier triplets. Courtesy of the Schreier triplets. Yeah. So
Paul McCartney? No.
What?
No. Alex D. Mortimer.
Yeah, Alex Mortimer.
Wow.
From the Unbeatables.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
look at all these people.
Yeah, well, we'll go over that.
Okay, all right.
That's what we're going to do. See you in the next half.
I'm offering this special gift to you, so wrap it up and tell me where to stick the bow.
Okay, part two.
Part two. We just want to see. Yep, there's nobody around. It's coronavirus time in the world. But Byron had just remembered something. We're just going to go back to the out of the chocolate song. He had a couple of thoughts he wanted to share. So should we play first?
Please.
Okay, we're going to play this. This is just the out of the song we just heard.
So, I remember that, and those are the parts that I would play incessantly when I was in the studio, or if I was by myself. I was lucky enough to be able to come in the mornings, work by myself before everybody showed up and stuff like that. So I would spend hours. I love intros and outros to songs. I love how things break up after a song is properly done, sort of once you get through the sort of core of a song. But I always love how songs start I don't like proper starts. I like things just sort of slowly rolling in a ball, getting their act together. These starts where things slowly come together. But I also love outs, and I love to really put a musical shiv in it. I can hear some of the vocals on the out are taken from the verse, and they're placed against maybe an out-of-tune piano and stuff like that, an out-of-time thing.
There's a lot of pitching going on.
Yeah, and there's a lot of just sort of flowy stuff, and it doesn't really make much sense. But the interesting thing to me is in context with the song proper. So you got to listen to the song, and then you hear this sort of weird sort of voice, this distant voice. It's almost like Poltergeist to me. And it's going with this sort of a theme that I have, it being freak of nature, sort of that steampunk sort of subculture, weird stuff. I can just imagine faces in the camera with off makeup and just colorful characters and stuff like that.
Freak of nature images,
yeah, very much freak of nature. So like when I hear that music, that 3/4 with the weird instruments and stuff like that, yeah, that's absolutely what I hear. I hear a freak circus, and I can definitely, as soon as you played that, it just triggered something in me that I remembered. I would play that incessantly. Hours in the studio that John was in there, and I just have it on rewind and just play it again and again because there's just something so cool to me about it all.
So I'm guessing that you say you're into the studio, you're just dicking around, laying all kinds of shit down, and eventually John gets to it and starts sorting through it and kind of making a tapestry of it. I mean, or would he just basically push up faders of all the stuff you've done in these weird parts?
He would take with what I've done, and then he would just sort of maybe sort through things and just sort of make. Because he had basically given me the keys to the studio and the keys to this.
That's a problem.
And the keys to this multi-track system where I could move things around, and I can hear myself. That's what I'm moving. I'm moving verses around. I'm moving things around. So and even to this day, and this is one of the best things about a computer for a guy like me, and one of the worst things about a computer for a guy like me. I will try every variation. I will take things from different parts of songs just to hear what they sound like, just to hear the pull and the push, the dissonance that you can get from putting a chord where it shouldn't go, or a bass note, and then just sort of having it all resolve and stuff like that. Yeah, so I think I would just sort of do all that stuff, and John would walk in and go, what the WTF, like, what have you done to the song? It was so simple and so easy to begin with. Again, all these songs that you hear, if you take away all the stuff, all the players and stuff like that, and if I were just to sit with you with a guitar, the essence of the songs are all still there. This is just complete, utter indulgence and musical indulgence. And I think it works well in one way if you just sort of go with the theme of this being a freak show. So I think musically, it does sort of
most definitely
stay in the freak show mode. So endings are a good thing. I almost like to. I have no doubt at some point I wanted to start the song with the ending. So but that doesn't make much sense to even myself because you have no context. You have to listen to the song to sort of get the ending part. But I love that ending stuff.
And I would think that it would be John more than you that would be worried that it has some type of cohesion. I know you would it's a musical sandbox. We're just dicking around.
Somebody come and save me, for sure.
Right. Like I've always said for years, that why don't you let that beat go a little bit longer?
No, because we can't.
Right. But I always knew that John also shared that point of view as a real music producer, saying I'm trying to make this so it's appealing to people.
Yeah. Well, I think I have no taste in one way that I don't think I have the same taste that like a lot of other people do. It's an interesting discussion, and it's one I've had with myself before about an audience, about do I have an audience, or my audience is myself, but how much am I willing to make things legible to people so other people will be interested in it and stuff like that.
Well,
Yeah.
the good thing about it too is that John took a lot of ownership of this album, and for me it was a great choice because leads back to why I suggested I think you need to go see John, because I knew what was happening. You were like this almost impossible to control creative force in the studio, and John was an equally controlling force.
Yeah, in his own way. Yeah.
And I think that was a good combination. But you know what? How many times in music have you heard the story where a great combination, but it also fosters all kinds of other issues and things? I mean, it's not an uncommon story, right?
No, it's not an uncommon story, and it's a pretty intense 5 years when I look back at it, sort of doing all the stuff, having all these people sort of go through that he facilitated for me.
We're looking at the credits page here.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't know these people. It's only through John that I would have been able to meet these people and have these people come and play, and some of these people are like serious, real musicians.
I'm sure you are. That's my phone says that I'm listening. I didn't touch it, and it's Siri. No thanks.
Right. So
one thing that I as well. It's funny how you re-listen to things you've listened to a trillion times, and you rediscover. One of my best buddies, John James, an incredible musician and a great guy and a super genius in his own way, has been with me in a lot of my musical journey and business journey. But it reiterated to me how much on this he played. He was such a great bass player.
Yes, John James, a real musician, true musician.
And like a lot of my friends, doesn't play much anymore. It's unfortunate. And Byron has John's old bass. John took his bass. He just yanked the frets out of it because he wanted a fretless bass, and he played fretless bass for a long time.
It's in my studio.
It's not an easy thing to play.
No, I don't hardly play it, at least the bass that he gave me at all anymore. But I always know it's John James' bass, so that's kind of cool. And it sits in my studio.
So leading into the next song, I wanted to remind everybody that we had that sort of, konnichiwa feel to the last song, which leads nicely to the next song we're going to listen.
Oh, I'm curious.
Which I'm going to just cue up here. Just let me get this ready. We're just going to go, and I can go into fast motion.
Something to give.
Suki.
Wow. That's a bit different than all the other stuff that we've heard.
Yeah, it's funny that all the songs I love on this album, this song always seems to make its way onto like playlists I have on different devices. I have this song almost everywhere. It's such a great period piece song. It's such a great amalgamation of different players and things. Like I was saying, that
there's good players going on, eh? Good playing going on.
I was mentioning that,
and it ain't me.
That I'm always amazed at John James appearing in these things. So that slap bass part at the beginning and the end is John James.
That's awesome.
And I remember he was in the Hooblers. He was in that band Ichabod I had, and he was, his own style of playing was very much Tool, that kind of thing. Very, very technical stuff, and was doing slap way back in the early days of it. But the juxtaposition of John and then having Tom McMahon again playing It Says Look at the Stick and the bass here, those chorus parts, I just love them, the lower bass ends. Anyways, give me your thoughts on what you're coming with Suki.
Well, I would say lyrically it's probably one of my more slightly. So I guess I'm still going with the freak theme. There was a girl that I went to high school with that was named Suki. I always liked the name Suki. She seemed like a very sort of Suki girl, and after that, so it was a name that I always liked.
That's good.
Sorry, I'm trying to keep my social distance.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a name I always liked. I thought it was a sexy name for a girl. And so I think at some point I was always going to have a song called Suki.
And what's the deal with the South America thing? Anything just...
I don't know. It's just me just sort of putting a different place. It looks like just sort of something at that time got me to South America in my head. So maybe something was going on in the world that made me sort of do it. I don't really understand what I'm talking about, but yeah, I think the whole point of the song is more to do with the style. So it was sort of supposed to be some sort of dance stacks thing with horns. I think that was always the idea with it.
The horns are incredible. I mean, the jive wires again. Congrats. I mean, incredible lines.
There's parts of my vocal, at least the meter to my vocal, sounds good in parts. Like there's a lot of words going on. There's a lot of sort of meter going on with my lyrics.
Yeah, that always makes me think, are you going more for the way it works in a rhythmic sense?
Yeah,
And then you just say, well, let's pick a topic that's kind of goofy and I can put my weird words into.
Yeah, it sounds like I'm fitting words into a meter already. Yeah, absolutely. Like it's all rhythmic.
She's a pseudo-Inca diva.
Right, yeah. So there are some good lines and some bad lines, but pseudo-Inca diva is one I'll take for sure. That's awesome.
Oh, all of it is great.
Like, Amazon Go-Gun and Amazon Go-Go.
Amazon,
where she's a belly dancer. Something was so... Yeah, so... For sure, a song like that, there's no point for me to write. So lyrically, I don't think I would ever write something like that again. That's sort of a third person sort of thing. That's creating a character. I can imagine thinking back then that I've always thought it'd be cool to do something for Broadway or for the theater and have these different characters and stuff like that and have them sort of come true. It's no different than sort of listening to the Beatles and stuff like that, where they just sort of, where there's Rocky Raccoon or Polythene Pan. Every song's got a person that sort of has their thing or whatever. So I don't think there's any special message to it other than the name Suki. So yeah, I was probably just happy to get a song that had the word Suki on it, and I was happy probably about Pseudo-Inca Diva. And
were you intentionally trying to style it in that stacks thing you're saying? Like, that was really the point of this?
Yeah, I think it was always the point to do a song like that where I think the drums are very sort of like Motownish. It's always on the 1, 2.
Well, the snare is on the 2 and the 4.
Yeah.
Or sorry, the 1 and the 3.
Yeah. So he's all, but he's always going. And Andy Ace, the British guy that played with John in the Crayons, is that right?
I don't know. I don't know where.
I think they had played
Maybe
together
he
in the
does.
Crayons.
What an incredible
if John was
original guitar player.
Yeah, so he played the guitar on it. So I don't think I played it all on this song. So that's why it probably sounds so good. That's why probably the band sounds so good. But yeah, so this would be another good live
yes,
song.
but I'll tell you what. And this is just me being picky about it. It sounds like sometimes, because I know that, he didn't have this band playing live. He John's flying parts in. And at the end, sometimes those real cold starts on John's slap part with the drums and all, I don't know. I'm sorry. It just sounds like it's slightly offset a little bit. Like the bass part isn't keyed up exactly to the start of the drum.
It might be. I didn't hear it. If you played it again, I'd probably.
I don't want to go on anything. I think
it's interesting that you said it. You might be right. I didn't hear it that way. I don't. The whole thing sort of sounds like a Boolean bass to me. It's such a period piece. It would be something. So.
But it's organized and logical.
Sure, but I think it's one of those songs that you always just sort of, to me, it would be just sort of like, I see this opportunity coming up where we probably talked about we're going to have a horn section at some point where John probably said, yes, I've talked to the Jive Wires. At some point you can have a horn section come in and so you can track horn parts on a certain song. So at some point I'd probably think in my head, well, I should have a song that's specific to that would be specific to sort of the Jive Wires style.
And did you always sing these songs at his studio after all the music was done?
No, I tend to either do it two ways. Either I'll track it without any instruments, or I'll wait to the very end and do it with a full orchestration and try and sing it that way. There's something very sort of selfish about doing it that way because
which way?
With a full orchestration, because it's fun to sort of sing your song all of a sudden when you have a full orchestration and you're
live. It's like
you're going, oh my god, I just wrote this, I got the full orchestration going, so it's pretty exciting to wait to the very
and I know Byron would set himself up in the studio all dark with a little candle on a little table somewhere, and that's the way you'd like to do your vocals, immersed in your own little universe.
I do my vocals a lot differently today, but I don't have the same tools I have today as I did then, and so back then it was a bit more different. Like when I did it when we did it, it was sort of you had one track you had to work with, and we were punching in and out. I think I had a few more tracks to work with to sort of put things together.
I guess I'm just saying environmentally yourself and.
Oh, always. So whenever I come to sing a song, I'm never quite sure what I'm going to do until I get to sing my song. I always give myself room to, because I never know what's going to happen in my headphones. There's always, it was like when I used to play hockey, and when I was playing really good nets, I was a goalie. And when I was playing well, I recognized that when you play well, you're not really thinking. You're just sort of, you're playing your game, and it's when you start thinking that's when you start making mistakes as far as hockey goes.
Self-analyzing as you're doing it.
Yeah, right. And that's just the worst. The best karma to be in when you're, at least my experience playing sports, is when you're not thinking about it. You just sort of are like right in the mode of doing it. So there's... I can have a sort of a vague idea about how I'm going to sing a song, but it's not till I actually put the headphones on, and then I get into that mode where I'm not thinking about it, but I can just hear things just start appearing in the ether as you're going along and singing. Sometimes there's some words that are a problem to sing because maybe you have to hit a note, they don't have a consonant to start. Like if you... I've heard other singers talk about this. So if you really have to hit a high note and it starts like with not a hard consonant, so you have to go up and go ooh. There's a big climb up as opposed to a do. So you start finding things that sort of don't, but you find a lot of things that you really didn't think about until once you start playing it. So I always leave things sort of open. I sang that vocal not at this studio on Liverpool Court. I sang that on John's second studio before he actually moved into the big studio, and that was his house. They moved at the time John was living with Elizabeth, and they
on Hawthorne.
And they moved from Hawthorne to.
I didn't know at this time.
Okay, well they moved. They moved to a house that was close by the studio.
In Riverside or
something like that. And John had a studio downstairs, and it was temporary because I think at that time also he was thinking about actually having a proper studio, because John, his Hawthorne studio, he had obviously had it all rigged out for. He had a soundproof booth, and it was small. So the house that they moved into was more of a traditional suburban home, traditional basement, stuff like that. And but I remember doing the vocals there and stuff like that. So so sometimes I have a lot of instruments when I do vocals, and sometimes I won't put any vocals.
And that also reminds me, I guess, that this album, the creation of this album, moved over 3 studios, from Hawthorne to this place you're talking about, and then to the studio proper.
Yeah, it was 3 studios. Absolutely, studios. Yeah. It's a shame. It's a shame. I'm listening to this.
So that was Suki, and again, a fantastic period piece. And on the next episode, we'll move on to a couple more songs. But I did throw up the credits here just for my own self to know to throw the credits up. So when we talk about these things, people know what we're looking at. I just threw up a credits page here that just shows a lot of people involved. As you can see, Oliver Marsh, courtesy of Claymouth, Tom McMahon, Greg Mindorf, courtesy of the Stuntman. What's that? The Stuntman.
I don't. Where are you?
Well, I'm just looking because Tom McMahon plays so many great bass lines. Courtesy
Oliver,
of the Stuntman.
Oliver Marsh, courtesy of Tom McMahon. Tom McMahon. Okay, so Greg Mindorf, courtesy of the Stuntman.
Oh, maybe Tom McMahon's on his own.
Yeah, he is on his own.
Okay, sorry.
Because I guess we put the names of their bands in. So that's what these courtesy of Shelf Life, Wally Petit, courtesy of Shelf Life.
That's right.
Alex Morner, courtesy of the Unbeatables.
Mike O'Reilly, he had a great career on his own too. He was an interesting artist, to say.
Mike O'Reilly was part of the gig. So when I knew Mike, super talented guy. I really enjoyed Mike O'Reilly. He was Delmer and Cecil in
right, one of the guys on Shay. He had a character that he was this old country guy.
Yeah, and so
they did it pretty well.
He was a great songwriter, and he had a band or a sort of a shtick at the time called the Radio Kings. So it was sort of a 50s bluegrass vocal. He had three-part harmony people, and it
was really good because it was with Al Bragg, if I remember correctly.
Right, Al Bragg was the
laps or pedal steel player.
Just Top of the Pops.
He's on this album.
Musicians, he played on Ground Floor.
They're Al Bragg, courtesy of the radio.
He sang with me. Mike O'Reilly sang with me. That's right on this album.
Sink or Swim or something, or
the song called Ground Flying.
Ground Flying.
Yeah,
that's right. Yes,
it's
that
one of my
weird
favorite
old
songs on this album. Ground Flying.
So there's lots of people to talk about, lots of things to go over.
Dick Smith, courtesy of the Dick Smith, Mike O'Reilly.
Yeah, Mike O'Reilly and Dick Smith played together. I remember doing a few of their albums for John through Healy. And it was really, really good stuff. That one Radio Kings album that John James did the artwork for is genius. I mean, everything from concept right through to execution.
Johnny Vegas.
Johnny Vegas, a.k.a. J.P. McDonald, TMR fame, and Byron's old buddy.
Now, what is Steve Johnson courtesy of what?
The Hooblers backwards. That would be your funny joke.
Thank you.
I always knew that one. John James.
Why did we put that backwards?
Because it was some inside joke. Probably because we were so crappy you were making fun of us.
Probably.
John James courtesy of Ichabod. Ichabod was a band that John and I played in with Marty Goulet and Eric Willison. I loved it. I loved that band. It was John's tunes. Eric sang them. And it was heavy riffs. Not always, but it was a great band and only lasted a year or two. We actually played in the market in Ottawa. Get this, on Canada Day in the market. But we played at the top of a restaurant on the roof, like the Beatles.
Oh no! Yeah.
We played at the
very cool.
But very cool. But it was up like 3 stories. I'm terrified of heights.
Good.
So when we set up, we realized we were looking at nobody because we're on the roof and we're playing. And so people are saying, "Is there anybody down there?" And I think I got close to look over the edge once, and people could sort of hear, and it was the worst thing ever. We had to carry our stuff up to the roof and set up, but we actually played there. And do you think we would take video?
No, of course not. No.
Anyways, that's Ichabod. That was our big gig in Ichabod, the Canada Day rooftop gig.
Peter Foray. Where have I heard Peter Foray?
Oh, Peter Foray is a great guitar player. Peter and the Wolves. Peter Foray played with Bob Bangs. I think it was Richard Nash in Peter and the Wolves. Really, really good player. Really good guitar player.
Johnny Frigo?
That's the Eddie Van Halen of accordion guys. Like, and the thing is that in this album, you'll hear accordion, you'll hear other, not typical instruments, but they're all played by great players, and they're all on this credits page. And so we're just kind of getting reminded.
So that's one of the great sort of things about being in the studio. There's a lot of people that went through the studio, and obviously it was John always facilitated people that came into the studio to take a bit of time out, and if they were cool for it, come in and make a contribution on their instrument on this album. And as you can see, there's just a ton of people that made contributions to this album. So yeah, there's some banjo on this album. There is some steel guitar on this album. So there are instruments that I normally wouldn't go to to put on my stuff. But the artists superseded the instruments that they played. It was just nice to have these people come and
oh my God, yeah,
to have their do their shtick. So and I've heard some people that have listened to this album, and sometimes they say, as far as the choice of instrumentation, that maybe it's a bit country-ish on some of the songs. As if it's a sort of not their sort of favorite cup of tea and stuff like that, which is interesting. Yeah, so
how can you get that in the tapestry of the songs you're listening to? Now, maybe I'm a little jaded in the sense that I just think it was, in a way, almost perfect.
Well, in a way, I don't. It's not that, and again, I don't think I would have put that instrumentation in if it wasn't presented to me. So, but I think it definitely makes it a much richer experience hearing these things. It certainly supersedes expectations, right? Hearing a banjo come in or hearing a steel guitar and stuff like that. But it was actually Brian that was one of the people that who produced my next album. That was something he mentioned about listening about that.
One person I'm not seeing here that was one of the most impressive guest spots on the album for me, just because as a guitar player, you'd like to hear the people that can just go crazy.
Steve Petico?
Steve Petico.
Where is his name?
It must be somewhere else in the album, because there's no way that they wouldn't make mention it. We all worked on.
Are we
the
supposed to be
graphics
talking
of
about
it.
the Steve Batico session right now, or are we supposed to wait?
We're gonna wait. I just found it funny as I'm looking through, going, I want to see who he's courtesy of, because
Yes.
what a phenomenal player.
So sometimes you should get guitar players. Sometimes you should not even get really good players, because Steve,
I want to talk with Steve Batico when we play his song, because
he shouldn't be allowed to play
we all
guitar.
get excited listening to it. And I want to hear the stories about.
He's the type that can play and be tuning his guitar with his feet
Or he's
without
he's always
using
just
the fret
warming up, and you go, "That was good. Did you record it?" And he goes, "I'm just warming up."
Yeah.
I know.
He's too good. He's too good.
I love those moments in the studio when you have a great player who can interpret things creatively a million different ways, and you go, "Now play it like a guy who's underwater and has got one foot missing," and you go, "That was so good." So what do you think? Should we wrap it up for this episode? We've heard the chocolate song and Suki.
Yeah, that's great. So let's hope we don't. We're not infected by this time next week, and we'll be back next
Yeah,
week.
who knows? Maybe this show won't be on next week. But I'll tell you what, if you do have any questions for Byron, and if he's not, dead by the time
Well, this might be the show that we both infected each other.
It could be.
This could be that we've got video proof.
I actually read an article in the paper today. They said to avoid threesomes. I said, got it. I'm pretty good, I think, if that's our main precaution.
Well, so the joke between Steve and I is that right now every human being should be in isolation. But for Steve and I, we live our lives in isolation. I'm just going to continue to do what I always do and do music and do drawings. I'll be posting another new song this week on YouTube. So, I keep going.
Yeah, so anybody out there who's currently following it, go over to Byron's channel and subscribe. You'll hear all his new tunes and things he's tinkering on and all. We're going to keep presenting stuff in a chronological order, hopefully.
Yeah.
And try to get through the album maybe by the time coronavirus ends.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll all be dead.
Right.
But it's been fun. I super enjoy it. It's super
Yeah.
fun to listen to some of this stuff.
It is good. I always say, as you start sort of unloading stories onto, the digital realm, you now create a little space in your head for something else. Because I always worry as we get older, these stories have to stay alive somehow.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. It's definitely a wonderful thing. It's really opened my eyes in another way to looking at my stuff and just sort of talking about it.
Well, on that, peace out, baby.